We are ready here. So I'm going to start, although this is a Photoshop lesson, I am going to start with InDesign for a moment. So I'm going to go into the FY folder. Now we've been dealing with the wallflower, right? But some of you have been asking me, well, how do we, like, what does the yearbook file look like, right? Like, you know what the wallflower file looks like, but there's also a file that we use for the yearbook. If you click on the yearbook folder, the first folder has a whole bunch of subfolders of photos that get populated. And then there, at the top, you'll see number one, layouts. You see layouts in progress, layouts completed, heading out, and sent. When you're doing your yearbook work, just your yearbook work, you should have a folder made in layouts in progress. There's a few that I have to delete from last year, but any of you can just add your folder here. You just click new folder, put your name on it. Any work that you have that belongs in your, that's meant for yearbook should go in there, right? So if you're doing something on like junior dance, that's not a wallflower thing. That's a yearbook thing. So you should have a folder with your name on it. And then you should put your pictures in there. Let's see, a few of you have, like Odie's got one there, and Talia and Sarah, Ray. So at the going back one, you see at the bottom of this, it says templates. And there's blank page 2017. You can use that one. I haven't put the new date on it, but it's the same template. This is what the yearbook looks like. This is how it's set up. So you've got your left page and you've got your right page. I put instructions on both. It's the same instructions. I just printed on both sides. And you can read those instructions, and that's all fine. And it looks like I misspelled technical, which is pretty sad. Just going to delete these things here and just say, okay, let's pretend I'm working on the yearbook. I'm going to look at my layers. I'm going to use this as a background layer. Maybe I'll create a little background for the whole page, and I'll give it some nice color. What color shall I give it? Can you guys give me a choice? What do you want? Blue, yellow, green? Red's too aggressive. What is periwinkle? Is that like Wedgwood? Is that like that? All right, let's just go with that. Like that? Oh, that thing. Down. How about that? Oh, you guys are killing me. I don't know. I apologize for this, viewers. Okay, we're going with purple, all right? Fine, whatever. All right, I'm going to lock this layer. Remember, the advantage using layers is that you can lock them down, and then you can work on top of them without the risk of moving anything by accident. So I've got my background layer locked. I'm going to go and place a photo here. I'm going to grab a photo from last year. From when I was taking pictures of graduating students. Let's see, who do we have here? Okay, so that looks like Neil. It is Neil. Okay, so here's a photo that I took in front of the green screen last year. Photo of Neil. Now, the point of using the green screen was to remove the background so that I could have just a picture of my subject. So we have a green screen there. We have soft lighting. It creates a very neutral background, and this is really important when it comes to doing this next step in Photoshop. As I was showing you yesterday, Photoshop and InDesign are part of the same package, and they can be linked together. So you can jump from InDesign right into the file that you need in Photoshop. So this picture here is what we call a link. If I hover over links here, it'll tell you this photo came from layouts in progress, Blower, special grads, and that's the name. So the photo has a location. If I right click and go edit with Photoshop, it'll open up in Photoshop and it'll appear there. I'm going to make changes in Photoshop, and when I'm done with these changes, you'll see that the changes will have been updated on my InDesign file. So I need to get rid of the background behind Neil. There's different ways I can do it. I suppose, crudest way to do it, in the sense of just being like a very simplistic kind of way, is to use something called the lasso tool, which is up here. It actually kind of looks like a lasso. And you use this thing to draw a line or loop. I'm not doing a very good job here, but I'm trying to kind of do a little contour. Like this, I'm saying, okay, I want to get rid of the green. Neil's got a beard. It's not going to make it easy. I'm going to do this. I create a loop, and then I hit backspace. I'm going to turn it to white, and it should disappear. All right, that's the kind of the simplest way of doing it. It isn't entirely effective. It leaves a lot of areas still uncovered, and then I would have to go into these areas and try to do this again. He just graduated last year, so I'd have to like do this. This would take forever. It's not going to look great. It's very challenging. So that's one method. I wouldn't recommend using the lasso tool for something like that. You could use it for something else, for a smaller detail thing, but I wouldn't use it for a full-on picture. So I'm going to go back to my history. I'm going to go back to when I opened the photo. I'm going to try a different technique. This one is called the magic wand, and it's located under the quick selection tool function right here. Magic wand works a little better, but again, it only works well if you have a very uniform background. So I have a green background, but if you look carefully, the green is not all the same shade. Up here further where the lights aren't reaching, the green is darker and it's a lot brighter around Neil's head. The magic wand tool does is try to select pixels that all look the same. So if I click on it, I can get this. So what this is saying is all these pixels are basically the same shade of green. If I increase the tolerance level up here, it will discriminate less between shades of green, which means it will allow more variations of green. So let's say I increase this to 56. You'll see a larger area will be selected. Like, okay, well, why don't I just increase it to like 80? I could. Why not go to like 150? Okay, now it's starting to see green pixels in Neil's face, in his hands, in his clothes, because there's a little bit of green in everything, right? Like our colors are made up of a mixture of colors. So I've gone too far. If I go too low, like 10% or 10, you see it's now discriminating too much. And it's leaving all kinds of areas that are not properly identified. And so I'm going to get kind of a splotchy, messy sort of thing with all kinds of leftover pixels, which doesn't look good. I don't want these. So what I've got here is a really poorly cut out photo with all kinds of crud in the background, which I don't want. So we don't want to do that. The better option I find is something called the quick selection tool, which is here. With this, and this works gradually, which is nice. You click in the options here, you should click the option with the plus symbol, and it'll give you a brush size, which you can make larger than that. And you can either hold the mouse down or you can just click. And what it's going to do is it's going to slowly but surely grab pixels that connect with the color. Now, I did get a bit of his hair, and I'll show you how we fix that. So I'm grabbing the green. Now, I would amputate his hand here, and actually his head too. We don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to deselect some of these things I didn't want. So I'm going to go to the minus symbol. And I'm going to click, I'm going to go to the minus symbol here. And I'm going to say, no, I don't want to select his face. I just want green. So now I'm removing this from the selection. I also don't want his shirt removed. And I can zoom down a little. I'm like, okay, his pants are there, but I need his right hand. That's better. All right. Now I'm going to deal with the floor later because it doesn't have a green screen behind it. There's a few areas that I still missed. So I'm going to use the magnifying glass. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Say, okay, I'm missing a little bit of his cuff here. So I'm going to go back to the quick selection tool, and I'm going to, now my loop is too big, so I'm going to shrink that down. something a little smaller. And now I say, okay, let's get his cuff back. Oh, there's a little bit of cuff here. Let's put that back. I'll zoom up. Oh, I'm missing a little bit of a shirt here. Just going to pop that back, and it's even a teeny bit there. Oh, look, there's some areas of his shirt here that will actually get popped out of the picture because they somehow still have a bit of green. They're going to remove them from that. The facial hair is going to be a problem. It is challenging when you have somebody with a lot of like either curly hair or facial hair. That can be really tricky. There's other processes we can do, so we'll end up leaving a bit of green around there. We'll just have to fix it. If you put them on a green background, then yeah, it would probably go unnoticed. See, again, here's a few areas that I missed. It's really important when you're using Photoshop and you're doing this delicate work that you have to zoom in to your picture because you just don't see the stuff if you're zoomed out. And here's a little area where it didn't select some of this green, so I'm going to go back to the plus symbol, and I'm just going to tease the line a little closer to his hand. Keep working at it. If I want to work between the fingers there, I'm going to have to make it smaller, even smaller than that. And I'll just try to get that green area removed. Same thing between his finger here. And sometimes it takes a little bit of back and forth between the positive and the negative to get what you want. Restore his finger now. But it's worth it. Do this properly, because if you don't, you'll give somebody like stiletto fingers, right? Where like their fingers are like these fine tip points, like they're going to go and stab somebody like Freddy Krueger. You don't want that. So you really need to make sure you're doing this properly. You also don't want to cut off somebody's fingers, right? And like you just want to make sure you've got this contoured well. Now I've got it contoured well. If I hit backspace, it's going to delete the background. If I want to do the opposite for some reason, I would go to select inverse, and it will now select what's on the inside, or sorry, on the outside. Sometimes you would select the person, not the background. That's the other way to do it, in which case you got to inverse it. Anyways, I don't want to inverse that. I just want to get rid of the background. Okay. And then I'll deal with the ground here. I'll deselect this. I'll go back, and I'm going to get rid of this. Yeah, I can go back and deal with that. So I just take out the ground here. The more uniform your background, the easier it is to delete it. If your background has a lot of stuff in it, or the color is similar to what your subject is wearing, it's going to be difficult. That's right, yeah. And since most people don't usually wear green, that's why they have you do that. And then for the rest of it, I can simply crop him out and just remove the rest of the background. Maybe I'll just, because it's driving me crazy, let me get rid of the green in here. I'll just get rid of the green here, and I'll restore his shirt. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm doing a bit of a rush job here. Okay, get rid of that. Now I have a picture. The background's cut out. The next step is that you actually have to completely remove the background. So what we have here is a white background. Folks, if you're staring into your phone, what you're saying is you don't want to learn this, and you want to do very badly when it comes time to do it. You weren't born with this knowledge, and it's not coming at you through your phone. All right. People at home watching this, people were staring at their phones. Okay. Background is white. We don't want white. We want no background. So our next step is to simply remove the background. We're going to go to the eraser tool and go to the magic eraser tool. And only do this when you're satisfied that you've essentially removed what you want to remove. Set the tolerance down to maybe 10. Click anywhere in the white, and the background will disappear, and you'll get this kind of like funky checkerboard thing going on. All right. If you did that, if you tried to do it higher than a tolerance of 10, let's say you tried to do like 80, again, it might start deleting part of the person if they have a lot of white pixels on them or things that could look like that. Let me just see if I can do it. There we go. So it's selecting too much that appears to be white. So I find about 10 is a good amount for the tolerance to just clean up all the white in a picture. All right. So now I got a picture that is more or less cut out. I'm going to save it. I'll go save as. Because I've cut out the background, it can no longer be a JPEG. It will save it as a Photoshop document, and that is fine. Let me just put it in my folder. Let's see. I'm going to put it in my folder. I'll call it Neil. Remember to always give your files a name when you're done with them. I'm going to click save. Okay. And now I'm good. Actually, I changed the name. Shouldn't have changed the name. Let's just see. Can I change? Oh, I didn't want to change the name. Anyway, if I go back to my InDesign file, I'm going to reinstall that photo. Go File, Place, Neil. Wait, that's not the one. Here it is. I go File, Open. Now the background will be gone, though not perfectly. Also, my frame is too small. Neil's not appearing there, so I'll make my frame larger. There's Neil. The picture is not perfect. The green obviously has to be fixed, but do you see this little line here? That means that I didn't quite delete the border between the floor and the screen, but I can always go back and fix that. I'm going to go Edit Original. It's going to reopen, and I say, oh, okay, it was somewhere about just below his knee. There are some white pixels that I didn't see, or some gray pixels, or whatever they are. So I'm going to zoom in here. This is why it's really good to delete everything once you're completely finished. Zoom in and try to find where are those pixels. I need to see his knee for reference. And I don't know if you guys can see. Where are they? They're right there. Can you guys see this? No, you can't. I can see it on my screen better than you can, but it's right in here. So I'm going to grab the regular eraser tool, and I'm just going to erase this stuff here. I know you can't see it on the projector screen. You see that? Okay. So those are individual pixels, right? And it's once you go to this checkerboard effect, it's really hard to see them. That's why definitely like have a good look at your photo with the white background to make sure that you've actually got everything selected. Oh, I know I'm missing a bunch. And this is why, like, graphic designers, they're patient people who do a lot of fine detail work. You could spend a lot of time just touching up a photo, making sure that everything runs perfectly. I'll go over here. I'll fix it on the other side. That. And I'll show you another technique for doing this too. Okay, so let's say I got it all. I'm going to close it. It'll ask, do I want to save the changes? Yes, I will. When I go back to the InDesign file, boom, disappears, or most of it disappears. So you can always jump back and forth from InDesign to Photoshop when you're doing your work. If you see something you're not crazy about, I'll show you one other technique that you can use when you're cutting out photos, cutting out backgrounds. I'll grab a different one here. Okay, so here I got Sudi. There's straighter lines in this photo of Sudi, so it's going to be easier to do this. Quick selection tool should work, and she's not wearing green. She's got some blue, but pretty good difference between green and blue here, so I should be able to cut this thing out fairly well. Sudi, by the way, I don't know if you know Sudi, but she was the #1 yearbook student last year. She was a total social butterfly, went around taking pictures of like everything and talking to everybody. So she was by far the best yearbook wallflower student I had. I lost a little bit of her hijab there, so I'll put that back in. And her shoes, okay. Tract that. There we go. And her shoes down here. Okay. Yeah, you see how it's tricky when you've got like white shoes on a kind of a gray, or almost gray really, shoes on a gray background. It can be tricky to do. You just have to be patient with this stuff and go back and forth and try to get it to select where you want to. The other technique that I was going to suggest, if you want to make sure that you've got everything cleared out, is to color the background temporarily. Use the paint bucket, which is here. Give it a color, something really like aggressive, like red, and paint the white area. And you should be able to see if there's any leftover pixels kicking around that you didn't quite remove. You should be able to see them. So you see that little line there? You probably wouldn't see that on a white background, but we're seeing it here. Now what you can do is say, okay, I'm going to go back a step. I'm going to get rid of that color, but I'm right where I need to be. Now I grab the eraser tool and I just go in and erase that line. And I can now double check again with the paint bucket tool. The line is gone. It was fairly well cut out. You can see I lost a bit of her shoe here. So it's worth taking your time to do this properly, because although it's possible to rebuild things, you don't want to be in that position. Again, I'm going to get rid of the paint. I'm going to crop this thing. So I just have my subject that deals with the background or most of it. Then I'm going to go back to the magic eraser tool, get rid of the background, and I'm ready to roll with this thing. So that's how you do a cutout. And again, the changes you make in Photoshop will be linked to your InDesign page, and so you'll see how those changes come into effect. All right, so I'm going to call it quits on this screencast. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you're enjoying this course, and we'll talk another day.